All right, everybody, with us this week, we're finally having our well-coveted and people have been asking for it, the AI chat. But with us, joining us today is the president of Trailblaze Marketing, the Bryant University alumni himself, and the host of the AI Wave podcast, Chris Parisi, Rhode Islander through and through. We're so excited to talk about your life and everything that you've been working on, and of course, finally get to our AI chat. But Chris, welcome to the podcast, and how's everything going?
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Jake. Really excited to hop on this podcast. I mean, we saw you guys live when we were at a Founders and Friends event, and I've always wanted to hop on. So appreciate the opportunity.
So I just want to make sure you realize what challenge you just accepted. So about every day for this entire year, Will and I have said, we're going to get someone who really knows AI on this show, because we just keep talking about how dangerous ChatGPT is and how AI is going to rule the world eventually. So I want to make sure you signed up. You know what you signed up for. Are you ready for this?
I am ready. I have to live, breathe, and consume AI knowledge every day because I signed up for it a few months ago and I said, all right, I'm going to do a podcast about AI every week and I'm going to transform my whole business because we're in marketing. So Trailblaze marketing industry is going to be completely dismantled and changed by AI. So I had to get ahead of it. So I am ready to answer any questions. I am not an AI programming expert, but with the beauty of way things are today, there's a lot of no-code tools that you can use. And my focus is, how is AI going to impact businesses? How is it going to impact the job market? And what can we do to kind of prepare ourselves from an individual standpoint, career standpoint, business standpoint, and also, most importantly, the state. And I'll get into that on how I'm going to be creating an AI task force with the governor. So that's a little tease to stay tuned for the rest of this podcast.
Of course, we have it listed. We did our research, but you are the forefront in the Rhode Island community for AI. So there was no better person to have on the show. But before we get into that, we got to start with the way back when, and we'll hit with the hard-hitting journalism question we love to ask the random people on this podcast. Who is Chris Parisi?
Wow, that's a deep question.
Deep, I know. Getting right to it.
Really deep. You know, what I first think of nowadays, now that I'm older, I get these gray hairs, is I'm a dad. I'm a dad. You know, right now I have a 1-year-old. His name is Caden, and a wife, Megan. But really, I'm in the community as, yes, a business leader running Trailblaze Marketing. And but at the end of the day, I'm a problem solver and an opportunist, right? And we talk about AI, and I see things like that. We talk about the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition. I founded that during the heat of the pandemic in April 2020, when I saw that there was a problem where small businesses were really getting dismantled with this whole new thing called this pandemic. But it was an opportunity to organize all of our small business owners into one centralized organization. And all I do is connect. Like, there's nothing so special about me, but there's a lot of special people and organizations and businesses around me and here in Rhode Island. And what I love to do is just connect these wonderful, beautiful people together and see what is created from that connection.
So you're a Rhode Island guy. How did you end up at Bryant? What did you do there? You have any fun stories worth sharing about Bryant?
Well, first it was Bryant College when I first started.
You're dating yourself.
I sure am, boys. And that's okay. I kind of embrace the fact that I'm a little bit older these days. But I went to Bryant. My father graduated from Bryant when it was in Providence. He went to 2 years at what they called Reject, Rhode Island Junior College, now CCRI, and then graduated at Bryant. And he is a business owner. So he's a first-gen Italian. You know, we come from the boats. And he did this crazy thing called go to college, first one in his family. And he started a business. And I was always enamored with entrepreneurship. So I knew I wanted to do that as well. And I had a decision between, just like these are the 3 Bs, Bears, business, and balls. Well, I had a decision between Babson, Bentley, and Bryant. And I ended up making that decision to stay local because I thought they kind of offered the same things. I would stay, on on campus, but I would get that experience to still go home if I wanted to. I'm an Italian, so my mother makes great meatballs and pasta. I wanted to have access to that. But I really believed in Bryant, and it was one of the greatest decisions I made to get educated there, to have great connections there, and stay involved in the community. A fun story that was not fun at all was that my life changed when I was a sophomore. I went to Bryant to be an accountant. And if anyone knows me, you're probably surprised by that statement. I am not the accountant type. It's boring as hell. Sorry, all my accountant friends, which is like 90% of my friends from Bryant. That was my father did. That's what I was going to be doing. And I got actually jumped at Bryant, knocked out, just cold-blooded side, like not expecting it, not provoked by either party. Broke my jaw in like multiple pieces. But what that did was had me kind of reassess everything. And I also wanted to make sure I graduated on time, not let that punk like affect my life. So I was like, well, I don't really like accounting. And if I do marketing, there's less courses I have to take and I can get done in time. And this is what I really want to do. And I switched courses and went from accounting to marketing that sophomore year. And now I run one of the top marketing agencies in Rhode Island.
Wow.
That's great. I mean, obviously an unfortunate situation, but I'm a firm believer, so is Jake. Everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. And I took my mentality from there was that I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor, right? And like no poor me, like this happened, shit happens. Are you going to just stay on the ground, or are you going to pick yourself back up and do something about it? And that's what I did. I even had public speaking class with a wired mouth shut.
Oh no.
And that was also dating myself again when Kanye West's song Through the Wire was like released. That was like, oh my God, that was my anthem for sure. So yeah, I took advantage of that shitty opportunity, and my life would definitely have never been this. I might have been a born accountant again. Sorry, all my friends out there that are accountants.
Hey, it's you. It would have been you and 90 billion other people at Bryant. But now that you bring this up, you had to take public speaking with a jaw wired shut. I mean, how'd that work? Did you actually get through that course? And was that a challenge for you? I would imagine that was probably one of the hardest things you had to face at Bryant. But how did that all go down?
Yeah, I would say another challenge was trying to go to the parties, not being able to talk to the chicks, but just talking like this. Hey, my name is Chris. Yeah, it wasn't a good. I also looked like, there's this movie called The Hills Have Eyes. There's these like gremlin creatures. Like I had like this like so swollen, like it was bad. But public speaking, I broke it like in the middle of the course. So I was able to do one speech. And it was about 9/11, and we won't get into that topic.
It's all right.
But I definitely changed some minds. And then the second one I wasn't able to do, obviously, but I wrote. He just had me write my speech. And the third one, I think I just like kind of mumbled through with the wired mouth shut. But I was like, yeah, I'm not quitting this class either. And he's like, all right. So I got to take like a few less classes because it was tough, but I still graduated on time.
So after graduation, I mean, you had various different roles, but ended up becoming the vice president of Innovex company. So, tell us about, obviously you had to pivot in college, work the way up, but, tell us about what experiences or moments in your life allowed you to get you where you are today.
We used an important word, Will, pivot. I think that's what we all have to do in life is, even if it's uncomfortable, pivot to where you see the opportunity and where you align your passion and skill set. So that's what I did, right? I pivoted to marketing, and, I was fortunate enough where my father did have a business that didn't have a marketing department. So I went in there and created a marketing department, rebranded that company to Innovex. It was like Advanced Business Machines at the time. Not the sexiest of names. This is a fun fact. They were named Advanced Business Machines in the 60s because that way they can be at the top of the list in the yellow pages with an A. And that's why AAA is named AAA.
That's the best of both worlds, because that's like you're at the top, but you're also basically IBM. Just swap a letter out.
Yeah,
Wasn't IBM International Business Machines?
Yeah, you're right. They were called ABM. And I was like, well, this is a bad brand. So working with Bryant professors, shout out Teresa McCarthy or Professor McCarthy. Shout out Loring Barnes, who Teresa recommended. My senior last semester was a project just with Professor McCarthy and I of how I would rebrand a company called Advanced Business Machines. And she literally helped prepare me to do what I knew I was going to do. And that was able to just because I built relationships. Like, you know, whether you're in the classrooms or in a conference room at work or at a boardroom with nonprofits, you know, let yourself out there and kind of connect with other people. I connected with Teresa and she helped me out. Not only did I get credits, she kind of prepared me for what I was about to do. And that's what I did is I rebranded it and then just took advantage of opportunities, kept pivoting. So I did in-house marketing, but then that was boring. So then they sold copiers and printers, but the manufacturers also had these digital displays called digital signage. And I was like, that's interesting, marketing and technology. I started a division at 24. I was the largest digital signage provider in the state, perhaps the region. We got accounts like the Rhode Island Convention Center, the Vets, the Dunkin' Donuts Center, the Warwick Mall, Pizone's digital menu boards, all the Alex and Ani's throughout the country, because I pivoted again to what I was more passionate about and learned, all right, now what it's like to do sales and customer service. And that led me to then a digital marketing background where now we had some digital marketing clients. And that I was like, you know what, I'm going to pivot again and still deal with clients and help them out, but on a marketing standpoint, because these damn machines are broken on a Saturday and I have the digital menu pizza shop owner yelling at me, and like I'm not a tech guy like or a mechanical guy, like I'd rather just help your business grow through marketing. That's what I was more passionate about. And then we built a team in mid 2010s and then that eventually led to a rebrand because Innovex couldn't be a master at copiers and printers and IT as well as websites and marketing. It didn't make sense. So I rebranded it and then incorporated it as my own company and took that scary dive where I can't hide behind a big company. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, leave the big company and just go all in on this thing called digital marketing with a brand called Trailblaze Marketing.
Yeah, we'll talk about Trailblaze in a sec, too. I want to dive into that Rhode Island roots area as well. So you're on the board at Millennial Rhode Island. And just to read some quick copy for those that don't know, a generational network whose mission to help others choose Rhode Island, keep the talent businesses that are in the great state of Rhode Island. Founded in 2014, continues to build. How did that come about? What are some of the things that are going on there? And how did you get involved in all this?
Yeah, so Millennial Rhode Island, I mean, we were younger when it was founded and we were all graduating college and saw a big brain drain, right? We had the third highest rate of those that get educated in the state that leave. And we wanted to reduce the brain drain, show everyone, all the young talent, how great Rhode Island is, how we want them to hashtag choose RI. So a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, invited me to one of their events. And, you know, Will knows how I am. I was like, all right, who's founder? Who runs this? Let me chat with them. And I spoke with Travis Escobar, who's an amazing individual and a really change maker here in Rhode Island. Definitely should get him on the podcast too. And we hit it off. And ever since then, I was on the board, and I think I've been on the board for probably 6 years or so. And I'm currently the vice president on the board. So I work very closely with Travis to, help continue to grow this brand, where we have essentially events where we either do educational programs like home owning and home buying, or how to manage student loan debt. And we'll have like sponsors like Bank Newport, shout out, where they'll sponsor some of these events so that we can provide this free education to our members. But also we have 4 key socials, and we just have fun. We connect with others. And I've built a lot of relationships over the years through Millennial Rhode Island and this generational network. We actually have an event coming up in August. So if you go to @millennialri on Instagram, you can find out more about what we're about, and definitely attend our next event. It's going to be a blast. It's our summer social.
So why should, the education point, we have some of the best institutions in the country, I would say. Obviously we all have the Bryant education, Providence College, Brown, URI, Johnson and Wales, Roger Williams, like everyone, everyone has, special aspects to each school, but we do produce a lot of great talent. Why should people stay in Rhode Island after graduating and coming here?
And this relates to what I'm going to speak about in the AI task force, but the world changed a little bit during this pandemic thing. And one thing it did was reduce the need for young talent to stay in these big metro cities like New York City and Boston. I mean, you could do pretty much anything anywhere now. So why have this huge cost of living and huge traffic and huge issues that you just don't want to deal with? Why not stay in a beautiful city like Providence, or a beautiful ocean state like Rhode Island, and, have the ability to hop on a train to go to New York or Boston at any moment that you want, but have increase your quality of life with a lower cost of living, where you can also be someone larger, the big fish in a smaller pond. I mean, I'm an example of that, right? If I was doing what I'm doing in Boston, I probably wouldn't have as much of an influence that I currently have here in Rhode Island. I mean, it's a dope city. It's a dope state. It's a great place to live, grow your families. And yeah, we have these great educational cities, but I mean, not too many places you can live, have all these 4 seasons, have these oceans, and be right in the middle of these metro hubs if we want to, do what we got to do to get up there or down to the city.
I mean, you said it. We love Rhode Island. I have a poster right over here that says, "Come to beautiful Rhode Island, so much potential." And I truly think it's undervalued. And then the last Rhode Island pointers we have, and you brought it up earlier on, is your small business coalition. I mean, that is something that's incredible. You founded this during the pandemic. You have over 1,500 members and tens of millions of dollars advocated for small businesses. We obviously know the impact that the pandemic and COVID took on these small businesses. And you started this, coalition very early on. But what was that aha moment in that April of 2020? Very early on. We're only a couple weeks into this, pandemic that we've had. But when was that aha moment? You're like, I need to step up and be the forefront of this.
You first kind of focus on your own. And my company, my employees were all set. We were able to transition remotely within a half a day. Marketing was needed more than ever. So like we were okay. My family was okay. So I was like, well, what can I do to help others? Like this shit is serious. And I saw like a post by Lieutenant Governor McKee at the time, like, hey, we need to help our small businesses. Here's my cell phone. Someone call. I'm like, really? The Lieutenant Governor just giving his cell phone out like that? So I picked up the phone and called him. We had some mutual connections. Also Travis Escobar, we talked about earlier, knew a few folks too. And he's like, yeah, just give him a call. I'm like, all right. So I actually remember where I was at my condo at the time in downtown Providence. And I'm like, hey, Lieutenant Governor, this is Chris Parisi, and here to help with the small business thing. They were doing like this gift card program where they were like, hey, let's make it easy for people to buy gift cards for small businesses, but there wasn't an online solution. Like, so how are they going to get these gift cards? And they can't go to the store, it's closed. And then they're like, oh yeah. So I helped build an online solution to that. That generated a lot of publicity and interest. And then we then had a database. And then it was like, and Lieutenant Governor and I were talking, like, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot going on here. And I kind of used my community organizing, marketing skills. He used his platform. I mean, the rest was history. Then we started to focus on getting release some of that grant money. So we got tens of millions of dollars released to help our small businesses. We literally showed up to the Capitol. I started a petition that had thousands of signatures. We printed out every signature, so it was like a stack of papers, and we had a press conference on the Capitol steps, and no one was around because it was a pandemic. But and then we delivered it to Governor Raimondo and said, like, we need our money for our small businesses. Stop holding it. Probably annoyed her, but we got the money out, and that was the beginning of something special.
And I think it was very fortunate too, from our perspective. You saw across the country, like, so many businesses closed, and obviously that happened in Rhode Island too, but it wasn't as prevalent, or I would say like astronomical, as other places, especially in such a small condensed space. Like, you could have assumed restaurants down Federal Hill or downtown would have been shutting down left and right, but people stayed afloat.
You're right. And honestly, Will, we don't think about that much. And I think because we're just so stuck in the moment, and everyone still has a tough situation. Our small businesses had so many issues that they kept talking about. But you're right. We were not decimated. We were severely impacted, but we did not, our small businesses didn't wipe out. So that's a great point. And I think the coalition was a big part of that. Lieutenant Governor McKee was a big part of that, really sticking his neck out for that, because he was a small business owner himself too. And then we started to do more advocacy, like, hey, do we really need to shut down all these businesses? Do we really need to separate that much at a restaurant, because now we just reduce 40% of the seats available, and every seat per square foot is important? And is this plexiglass really making the COVID just go away? Can we be realistic about this? And it was a lot. It was stressful. It was, because those people that were in power were really stressed. They didn't know how to handle this. So it was a lot of people just freaking stressed out, trying to figure out solutions that there wasn't always a solution that worked for everybody. But we fought through it, and we still exist. The coalition to this day, post-pandemic, focused on, there's still a lot of small businesses issues out there that we have to advocate for them, to give them a big voice.
So transitioning to Trailblaze now, to sort of tie it all together. You had all those really good experiences, and then you ended up at Trailblaze, right? So tell us about the early days there. First of all, where you feel that Trailblaze fits into the greater sort of digital marketing scheme. I know we're using AI over there, which is good. We'll get to the AI portion, we promise. If you came for AI, you'll get it soon. But in summary, what is Trailblaze? What have you guys been up to, and what goes into your role as the president of the company?
Yeah, so we're a full service marketing agency is the best way to explain it. What we do is we help elevate brands and bottom lines. Typically, we work with mid-sized businesses. That's been our bread and butter. Essentially, they're large enough to afford a marketing agency, but not so large where they have their own marketing department, right? And that's been our core, where we're helping businesses grow. Typically working with small business owners, but sometimes, larger public companies like a bank, like Bank RI, but a lot of the times it's with these small business owners. I'm one of them. I get what it's like to spend $5,000 with Google ads. That's less dollars in my pocket. So having that empathy to be like, all right, we're going to stretch those dollars. We're going to be very strategic about everything, and we're going to give a shit about you and your business. And we're really good at it. So we combine creativity with analytics, which is another important part of how we do things. So we're not just a brand creative agency. We're not just like doing analytical stuff. We're combining the two to deliver results for our B2B or D2C clients.
The team has grown, the company has grown over the past few years. What are, whether it's a specific project or a specific moment that really stands out and you're like, damn, we did that?
Yeah, that's a cool question. We're so, and I'm sure this is the same for you all, like we're stuck in the grind where like you don't really get to step back and be like, hey, and what we do now, we have a team meeting every Thursday, Trailblaze Thursday. And we like to just shout out like what's a win like that any of you or our clients or have won. So we're very data driven. We love the fact that we have this client for about 6 years now, probably 5 years, and they were just a rope manufacturer out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Rope, nothing sexy.
Ropes. That's it.
They just manufacture rope, and they just had like an OEM B2B business model, and they're like, hey, this is 6 years ago, we're starting this like online thing, like e-commerce, and we're going to call it qualitynylonrope.com. Can you help out? So we took it, and we've been with them ever since and grew their business online probably like 700% at this point. And what we're most proud of is that it's like growth year after year after year. And we went from like, let's just do Google ads, or let's also do social ads. And now we're managing their Amazon ads, and like we're like helping them strategically with their businesses and doing video and really just, pushing the envelope of how we can consistently grow their online business, have a strong, high return on ad spend. And just overall, we actually just re-platformed them to a new CMS for their online website that will go live probably next week or so, because we've done it 6 years ago and now it's time for something new, and they entrusted us with that. And that's something that we're really proud of, because it's easy to do like some of our other clients that have like cool things. Like there's a chocolate company that we market, and like everyone loves chocolate. But like rope, like if we could market rope, we could pretty much market anything.
And that's the thing too, is that what do you find more rewarding? Is it something like that where you essentially have to get people to care about rope, or does your team sort of get the more joy in like more cutting edge, sort of more consumer branded products, or is it just everybody has their niche for everything?
We have a team of specialists, so they kind of are focused on their specialty. So the Google Ads guy is going to want to make sure we have the greatest return on ad spend, and the social ads person is going to make sure we want the best performance creative. I would say there's definitely some team members where like they prefer working with some clients more than the other because it's just more interesting. But at the end of the day, what we focus on is client success. So even we say, listen, we're going to have a lot of fun here at Trailblaze, but never at the expense of client success. Client success is at the forefront of everything we do. And there's numbers behind it because we're so data driven. So at the end of the day, we get most excited about when we achieve that success, especially for those like locally owned businesses where there's a person, like his name is Andrew, that owns and runs that business. Like Andrew's a local dude and he has a family, and and all these other folks have families that are working in this Pawtucket manufacturing plant. Like we're making sure through our marketing that plant in Pawtucket is staying busy. That plant used to manufacture shoelaces for boots in the Army during World War II. That plant is still going today selling rope. And Trailblaze Marketing has a little impact on keeping that business afloat. So I obviously love that local impact area as well.
And then maybe go ahead, Will.
I was going to say, I think the name's fitting, Trailblaze. Like after you explain something like that, it's like that is the true bow tie on what you're working on.
That's a great point, Will.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. I would think so. And then, I want to, perhaps this is a segue, but the differentiation piece, right? There in the state of Rhode Island, there's already, I can list probably 5 or 6 agencies there that, they're smaller. They've sort of got a president like you that's pretty well involved with sorts of things. all up the coast, there's, obviously a lot of marketing agencies there too. So, I mean, what in your eyes makes a consumer choose Trailblaze over potentially another brand?
Yeah, that's a great question, because how do you differentiate yourself in marketing? So, how we differentiate ourselves is that we're always going to be on the cutting edge of technology. It's my passion, and I've proved that my passion is helping other businesses out and really taking that extra step. We always say we take the human approach to marketing, understanding we do business with people, not businesses. That's kind of a misconception, although it sounds very silly and simple. But when you have a client, it's not like this like abstract business that you work with. Is literally humans and people that you're working with. And we love when our clients have an enjoyable, hassle-free experience. Um, but at the end of the day, data and results speak for themselves. So work with us. You'll make sure you're on the cutting edge, that you're going to enjoy working with us. But that's all nice. The must-haves is like, are you going to prove that you're going to be successful? And are you led by someone that actually gives a shit and is going to make sure that their team goes the extra mile to achieve my goals? And that's what we do here at Trailblaze. That's what I do to lead our great team. And like at the end of the day, I always say the most important part of any organization is the people that make it up. And that's very, very true in a services-based industry like marketing. And the culture we have at Trailblaze is a really strong, positive culture that puts people in a position to succeed and do what they're passionate about. That's one of our 5 values, is passion. So we have a great team because of this trickle down of this people first, people centric mentality that permeates throughout our culture. And yes, the segue I think that you were alluding to, Jake, is we're always on the cutting edge, and AI is the latest and greatest these days.
So we got to stop dragging our toes. We got to get out of our comfort zone. We're talking AI. You know, on top of the million things that you're doing, you decided to start a podcast as the normal person would do in 2023.
Yeah.
And it's the AI wave. You explore how to adapt your business with AI and how Rhode Island can be that leader in this economy. So, I mean, I knew you were interested in podcasting many, many months ago, but what was that aha moment for you where it's like, all right, podcast, yes, part of Trailblaze, yes, AI, that's got to be the topic.
Well, here's the thing, Will. I always said I am never doing a podcast.
Were you one of those anti people that was like, no, there's too many people that had pods and COVID and all that stuff?
Yep. I think I literally said this same phrase to Will about 4 or 6 months ago. Like, hey, Will, I'm never doing a podcast.
And then we looked at your studio and you're like,
I know, like we did other podcasts for other, brands, and we had our own podcast as well at Trailblaze. But here's the thing. When March 2023 happened, the world changed forever. Similar to how March 2020 changed the world forever. March 2023 is when all of this AI became mainstream. AI has been around for decades, but March 2023, when you introduce Chat 3.0 to the world, when we introduced all these things at once, it was just bam, 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 bam. And the public was like, whoa, what's this AI thing? And the vision that I had was, okay, I see how this is going to work. This is completely going to change marketing. And oh, by the way, it's going to completely change every single business, industry, sector, human in this world. And that's what like the aha moment clicked when I just started thinking of everything and be like, whoa, like I just saw what the future was like. And I was like, we got to do something about it for our own survival, but also I got to do something to make sure we survive as a state. So I created this podcast after talking with my team. During these Trailblaze Thursdays every week, I would start introducing a little bit about AI and a little bit more and what it means to them, and educate my own team first. And then I'm like, all right, we need to go all in on this. And I did a Trailblaze AI day where we shut down the whole company for a whole Thursday. And all we did was think about how we're going to reposition ourselves, how we're going to reinvent ourselves, and how we're going to market this to the public. And the team is the one who came up with the podcast. As you can imagine, it probably wasn't me. I didn't, this is not something I do for pleasure as much as something that I feel is necessary to educate it. But it's also something I'm passionate about. Like this shit is so cool. Like how it is scary, and I get that. And we're going to get into that, but the opportunities that are out there for all of us to do more, to be more creative, to save our time, to be more strategic, it's endless. And that's why we did what we did, repositioned ourselves as an AI-powered, human-elevated marketing firm.
So with that, who are some of the guests that you've had on? And I think a big area where people tend to struggle is they get this whole thing of AI can help you do more, but they don't know sort of what that more is, right? They're like, wait, I actually don't know where to start. So what are they doing in AI right now? Like, what are some of those cool examples of people that you've had on?
So some examples of folks that we had on, one of my favorite ones was Dr. Prashanta Pal. He's this brilliant scientist turned entrepreneur that is focused on clean data. And he's been using AI for a while, but one of my favorite, I asked him the question, like, hey, like, if AI is going to be doing all these mundane tasks, what's that going to happen? Is that going to just displace a lot of workers? Like, are we going to not have any work to do? And he says, until all the world's problems are solved, there's always going to be work for us. And what AI does is allows that mundane tasks to be taken care of so that we can be more strategic and creative to solve these world problems and issues that exist. And it gave me a lot of hope. He's a great, jolly fella. Definitely check out that podcast episode. I think it was like episode 4 or 5 with Dr. Prashanta Pal. We had Toye, who, Will knows him. He's in the game VR world. He has a VR lounge called The Bubbler. And how did he use AI to create programs? And he has something called the Muse Mirror. And how can you have a mirror that analyzes your skin to recommend which products you should use based on an AI algorithm? So there's really cool conversations. Our last one was just with Shannon Curley. She is head of content. I liked that conversation because it's within marketing, and a lot of creatives and content marketers are like, shit, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And she's head of content at her firm, and she talked about what it's like to manage a team of creatives during this AI revolution, and what are ways and opportunities to take advantage of it.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, from my personal standpoint, I love the aspects of, and I believe it was Ursa on your team that, that podcast episode talking about like the creative aspect of like the video trimming, the captions, like what can be used for that, I think is awesome. But one of my favorite blogs that we had on our site that I wrote recently, well, I didn't even write, but it was right after that boom of AI and ChatGPT and all of that stuff. And I wrote a blog about what is ChatGPT and what is this new wave of AI. And I used ChatGPT for it. And that was I had a whole, 5-minute read. And at the very bottom was, I didn't even write this. Now, again, had to clean some things up. It was definitely a little bit more monotoned, even though I tried to prompt it of being like, 25-year-old casual blogger writing about AI as they don't know anything about it type of thing. But it is crazy in some of like the content aspect of like, is copywriting going to be, cease to existence? Is content creation going to be more AI, utilized? Like what happens to the small town journalist, which was one of like our last points that we made about AI, where it's like, we see it as a positive thing, but we can also see the negative connotation of like, do I need to pay a reporter reporting on news if AI could be the solution for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what we say is that when it comes to AI, what I phrase it as the human endpoints, you need a human to give it the right prompt, provide it the right direction, let AI do the 80% in the middle, and then the human at the end to edit it, copyright it, put it in its own words, and make sure that there's the right context around it. So it's going to save a lot of people's time for sure. But what I can say to people and creatives is that, for instance, with our podcast, we use AI to do a lot of the post-production work. And something that would have normally taken us 6 hours an episode to transcribe, write the show notes, create the clips, to edit the actual video, all of that's done with AI. And that now allowed us to spend a little bit more time to be creative, to really tinker the video where normally we're just exhausted and let's just get this video done. But now our team had time to sit back, be like, all right, now I have a few extra hours. I can do more with the current work that I'm working on. So the output may still be the same, one podcast, but the quality of that one podcast would actually be improved.
So to zoom out, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, give us the definition of artificial intelligence here.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, because there's even different levels of artificial intelligence, right? And people kind of loosely use the term AI when things aren't even AI. And at this point, it's like, who the F knows? Like, what is AI and what? So the pure definition is when a machine-based system can perform tasks that require more than a binary intelligence. Like, it's a boring definition, but what a good way to explain is that there's 4 levels of AI. And level 1 is when you train a computer program to like do one thing. So the best example that I can provide is there was a big moment in like the 80s maybe or early 90s when a robot beat the chess master, like the best world chess player in the world. Obviously I don't play chess, I don't know what their phrase is, but the top chess dude, a robot, I think it was IBM, beat them. And that was like, whoa, like, things are changing. One task that they were trained on, nothing else. You see it in manufacturing. Then level 2, which is what we've been in a while, where it has limited memory, but you can provide it some information. And that's kind of where we're at now, but we're really in level 2.5. But you provide it information, has a limited memory, and it can create a tasks more than just one task that it's programmed to do. And then level 3 is where we're heading, which is when they're starting to understand human emotions and understand more than, and they have a larger learning capacity, larger memory capacity. Think of kind of like iRobot a little bit. And we're getting there very soon. Level 4 is Terminator. So level 4 is Terminator. They have their own ability to think, emote, and compassion, empathy. And that's when shit does get a little scary. But we're not there yet. We're like at 2.5. And the only reason why it's been so crazy the last 6 months is because we have these LLMs, these large language models, where before them, like if you were going to use AI, you had to be a programmer to code specific things. But now folks like the 3 of us can talk to the AI and it could understand us, read all the language out there, and perform an output that it couldn't just do before.
Now, when do you think we teeter into that 3 level? And I mean, I guess why people are, kind of hesitant on this new buzzword right now is because of that level 4. So when do you think it gets to 3? And when do we realize that maybe we shouldn't try to get to level 4 because that's where, shit could hit the fan?
Yeah, I would say we're going to be in level 3 within a few years or so. because the rate of change is exponential, in the true sense of that word, not like the hyperbole that we normally hear. We're going, like, you have the mechanical part of robots. You see it in like Boston Dynamics, those, the functionality part of it. Now, let's say you attach the intelligence part of it, and you're able to do it. I mean, there's so much investment in training models, in training these AI models. And it's a race. It's the new, arms race for AI. So when you have that much money investment towards it, it's going to happen fast, and AI can kind of train itself. Now you have AI to help build AI. So it's definitely going to happen soon. And my message to everyone is, like, you can be scared about it. That's okay, but you can't ignore it, because putting your head in the sand is only going to make problems worse. Embrace it, learn it, be aware of how it's going to impact you. Whether you're a marketer or whether you're a lawyer, that you're going to see. I have a lawyer friend. I talked to her. I said, "What's your most mundane task?" She told me about this report, 30-page report. She had to read, review, write, edit, summarize, send an email to a client. Takes her 6 hours. I explained to her how she can use just ChatGPT 3.5 or ChatGPT 4, and now she can do that task within 30 to 60 minutes, save that time, and maybe spend more time with her kids, right? So, like, there's a lot of benefits to it, but if the biggest thing is to learn, embrace it. Do not keep your head in the sand and ignore it, because it ain't going anywhere. AI is here, and it's here to stay.
So
Now, I was to add to that, though. I mean, do you ever feel, and I want to get your perspective as a father. I mean, obviously, your son's only 1 year old, but, like, do you feel that, like, this will hurt our younger generation in terms of, like, an intelligence standpoint, because it becomes a reliable factor of, like, oh, I don't have to do hard work, I don't have to retain knowledge as easy. Like, I can literally cheat on a test with ChatGPT and never have to worry about that, or never have to do hardworking tasks that, yes, might be useless and time wasting, but it gives you that appreciation of, like, oh, when I was a kid, I had to do X, Y, and Z, and now I can, reap the fruits of my benefit because I worked hard to get out of that.
Yeah, I think that's an important question, and that's why I think education is an important part of this AI task force. My question to you is: do you feel like we're all more intelligent than people from the 1800s?
I mean, the average
my other
person would
question
say,
to you
yes,
is-
we are. We're drastically more intelligent, right?
I think it's a
But would
different
they look at
intelligence.
us, right? Would they look at us and say, well, no, there's not as many academics anymore, right? They just sit on their phones and do it. Like, that's a really good point that I hadn't considered.
And, like, another point to consider is, like, they said this about the calculator. Like, oh, like, we're not going to be doing arithmetic by ourselves, and we're going to really, well, it's okay, because we can be thinking about other things and have our phone or the calculator, do a lot of the work. Maybe now we can solve some of these world's problems, or these, look into the stars and think about how we can use this AI to go further. My son's world is going to be completely different than our world. He's going to be tutored by an AI robot. There's going to be probably an AI robot in his room. Kids used to have dolls and stuffed animals. Now they're going to have these friendly little AI bots, and those are going to constantly help educate them, teach them. Tutors are going to be replaced by AI for sure. And yeah, it's a concern, but I'm not concerned, because if we ignore it, I'll be more concerned. But if we can think about it, be proactive about it, and ensure that there's some regulation, some, things in place where we can take advantage of this to take our generation to the next level, then why not?
But I mean, who's to say the AI bot isn't tossing the baseball around with your son while you're at work, and then you lose a moment like that?
I mean, that's on the father or the mother.
Well, no.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm at the point where it's like, I utilize AI to the best of my ability to, like, help, change some of that stuff. But, like, there's still that fear factor. And I don't know if it's like me being a little closed-minded, me just worried about like, again, the Terminator situation. So I guess for someone in my perspective, which I feel like is more common than not, why should people, yes, buy into that, but also, let that fear off that we aren't necessarily there right now?
I think having fear is a healthy thing. Having fear is what's going to allow us to be very prudent about how we deploy AI, how we be proactive about AI, and not be nonchalant about it. It is something to be fearful of, but a healthy amount of fear that can ensure that we're doing it the right way. That example with, playing toss, I may now be able to have AI perform some task for me where instead of me staying 6, 7 o'clock at night, I may be able to go home early and actually play catch with my son, for instance. So like I see it a little differently for sure. But here's the thing. If we want to get really psychological about it, this is the first time that the human species is no longer going to be the dominant species. And it's an existential threat that really is what's at the core of our fear. And that I understand. But that's the reality of where we're heading.
That's kind of scary to think about too.
I know. Like I hate saying it, but like if I think these seasons and see these things, I would be kind of not doing my job if I'm not expressing, these concerns. But we're going to evolve. We talked about the beginning of our podcast about pivoting. Well, the human species is going to be pivoting where you are going to have this metamorphosis of man and machine. And we already have it now. Like if you have contact lenses on, I have titanium in my mouth because got jumped. You have people that have amputee arms. It's going to be more and more and more to the point of there is going to be this blend because man as a general, but man and woman have this innate passion to just be better, stronger, faster, build, keep going further. And we pretty much maxed out what we can do as a species. So the only way to get to the next level is going to be incorporating AI into our daily lives and into ourselves. A little deep.
That's a crazy thought. Yeah.
It's
I
getting
usually talk about AI and business and how to help grow your business, but I blame you guys. You guys asked me the question.
This is where we wanted to end up with this. I will say that.
But I do want to convey that, just get used to it. Start playing around with it. There's a lot of free resources out there. So ChatGPT is a popular one, but Google has Bard, Microsoft has Bing. Dante is a way, a new one for creating chat bots, like customer service that can be completely changed utilizing AI. Hollywood's going to be disrupted. So here's a positive thing in the creative capital of Providence. We have a lot of creative folks. Right now, we can't create a Hollywood studio movie because we don't have tens of millions of dollars or $100 million. Well, with AI, you're now going to be able to create high level production value with low costs, which will level the playing field. And that's what I'm excited about with AI, is that it levels the playing field for the average person, that we can now compete with the big businesses, big Hollywood studios. The small businesses can compete with the large corporations. It levels the playing field and gives everyone an opportunity to do anything that they can imagine.
So how does the Rhode Island task force get into the mix of this?
So what I'm calling on the governor, and he agreed to it, so we just got to move forward with it now. Come on, Dan, is create an AI task force that proactively studies, measures, and creates solutions for how it's going to impact our education system, K through 12, as well as our wonderful higher eds, our job market. How are we going to mitigate the job loss? How are we going to upskill workers for the new AI economy? And number 3, our businesses. How can we help our businesses adopt and adapt with AI? And four, how can we invest in our startup community? We have a lot of great organizations like RI Hub, Founders and Friends. We have an event coming up as well in August. So at Founders Friends RI to check that out. So let's invest more into these startups communities that are AI based, because if we do that, we're going to have the skill force that I just mentioned that will be trained from an educational standpoint to then be hired and have these jobs available, which will increase our quality of life. And Rhode Island is a place to do it, because not only is it a great ocean state, a funky creative capital, but and a relatively lower cost of living compared to these other metros. But we're small enough to be nimble. We're small enough for me to talk to the governor and say, hey, let's do this. Let's create this task force. Rhode Island was the leader in the American Industrial Revolution. We were leaders in the jewelry industry. We are now leaders in wind energy, because we put our minds and money towards it. Why not can we be leaders for this AI revolution? What do you think, guys?
I'm in. I'm in.
Because why not? Like we can do it. Someone's going to be it. Why not us? And if our state is this kick-ass growing state for the next 2 decades, that's all going to benefit all of us young entrepreneurs in our 20s and 30s and 40s for the next 2 decades while we're in the workforce. So let's make that a reality and just learn more, embrace it, and talk to others about it. And, there's definitely concerns to talk through, but there's definitely opportunities to take advantage of.
Jake, I think this is a good AI chat.
I'm long awaited, and I think this delivered. Like, our final question for you was, what was your sales pitch to the world on why AI? We didn't even have to ask it to you. You just went off and said it. It's unbelievable.
I love this stuff. I love Rhode Island, and I just think there's you mentioned the poster about there's a lot of potential in Rhode Island. I actually am sick of Rhode Island having a potential. We just need to do the damn thing and be the leaders that we need to be. And I just asked the question, why not? Why not Rhode Island be leaders in this AI revolution? And if anyone has any questions, the biggest question I ask others is, like, what's your most mundane task? Shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, Chris Parisi, or Trailblaze CP, perhaps, the URL is. Just message me, and I'm more than glad to talk through how AI can help you or your business grow. It's something I'm passionate about, as you can tell. And I think we need all of us career individuals and business owners to embrace this, as we are all part of this solution. It's not going to work if we don't get on board.
Cool. Hey, Chris,
to ride the AI wave.
Yeah, I love it. That's another good segue too, because the plugs, where can people find AI Wave? Where can they find, the things that you guys are doing at Trailblaze? You mentioned how they could get involved with you, but where do you want to steer people towards to continue this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to ai.trailblaze.marketing, you'll see our page that's focused on all the AI stuff we're doing, our content, our blogs, our podcast. If you search AI Wave in any podcast platform you have, you'll find us. And then, my LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach out to me on an individual level. And I'm more than happy to help connect and learn more about you and how we can help you. And obviously our website is trailblaze.marketing as well. And don't forget our other organizations out there. Will's also part of Founders and Friends. We have an event coming up. So at Founders Friends RI, and then at Millennial RI, another great organization that we also have an event in August that you should definitely attend to. And I'll be there, so we can chat about AI, we can chat about marketing, or we can just chat about beers, business, and balls. I don't know, whatever you want to chat about, I'm here for.
Find the man in the gray blazer and green shirt, and you'll
yeah. I have like a cartoon, like I'm a cartoon character. I have the same outfit. I'll wear like monochromatic, or you'll see me with the blazer on with like a V-neck. If you see that guy with these glasses, it's probably me.
Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. And, keep in touch, keep riding that AI wave. And, we're excited to see what Rhode Island is to become, but thank you again.
All right. I appreciate it both. Thank you very much.